Rain tapped lightly against the windows of the city bus station, casting tiny ripples across the puddles on the cracked sidewalk. The clock above Gate 6 blinked 6:42 a.m. in red digital numbers, casting a tired glow in the early morning haze. Most people waiting for the bus were wrapped in their own worlds, checking their phones, sipping cheap coffee, or avoiding eye contact. But in the far corner of the bench near the vending machine sat a girl, no older than 17, her hoodie pulled over her head, hands tucked into the sleeves of her frayed coat. Her name was Brielle. She looked small and worn, not just from the rain, but from the weight of nights spent curled on benches, library steps, or church pews. A battered backpack rested beside her, holding everything she owned. No makeup. No jewelry. Just tired eyes that had seen too much for someone so young. People passed her without a glance, assuming she was just another runaway or a problem too complicated to solve. But that morning, Brielle wasn't looking for help. She was focused on a small brown paper bag in her lap. Inside was a muffin and an orange she'd gotten from the shelter's breakfast handout. She didn't eat yet. Not because she wasn't hungry, she was always hungry, but because she'd grown used to saving things for later, in case there was no later. Across the terminal, a man in his late 40s paced near the ticket machine. He was well-dressed but disheveled, as if the morning had knocked him off balance. His charcoal gray overcoat looked expensive, though his soaked socks peeked out from shiny but wet leather shoes. He patted his pockets, then stared at the machine screen in frustration. "I don't believe this," he muttered, trying to reinsert a declined credit card. Brielle watched him. At first, she felt nothing but curiosity. Then something inside her stirred, a strange sense of recognition. Not of the man, but of the desperation she saw on his face. It wasn't the kind of desperation you get from missing a meeting, it was the quiet panic of someone realizing they were out of options. She stood, slinging her backpack over her shoulder, and approached him with caution. The man was mumbling under his breath, clearly frustrated. He didn't see her until she was right beside him. "Excuse me," Brielle said softly. "You trying to get a bus ticket?" He turned, startled, probably expecting someone asking for money. But instead, he saw this soaked, skinny teenager holding out a crumpled $5 bill. "Here," she said, avoiding his eyes. "You can use this." The man blinked, confused. "Wait, what?" No, I can't take that." "It's fine," she said quickly. I got it from the shelter. I can walk." The man stared at her. This girl, this stranger who clearly had so little, was offering what little she had without hesitation. He looked down at the bill in her hand, then at her face. There was no angle, no scam. Just quiet kindness. He took it, hesitantly. "Thank you," he said. "But I'll find a way to pay you back." "What's your name?" "Brielle," she said. "But, you don't gotta do nothin'. Just pay it forward." She turned before he could say more and walked out into the drizzle. Her bus wasn't due for another hour, but she needed space. Space from the emotions threatening to rise, the shame of always giving more than she had, the loneliness of being invisible. She didn't know that the man had been watching her leave. Or that his name was Malcolm Reese. And she certainly didn't know that he wasn't just another commuter. He was the CEO of Reese Tech Industries, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the Midwest. And he'd just had the worst morning of his life. His phone had been stolen on the subway, his wallet lost somewhere between two stops, and now he was running late for a crosstown meeting with city officials about a major philanthropic partnership. Everything that could go wrong had. Until Brielle changed his day, and, eventually, his life. With a $5 bill. Malcolm boarded the bus, still clutching the worn bill like it was something sacred. He replayed her face in his mind, the guarded strength, the hollow eyes, the way she walked away like she expected nothing from anyone. He couldn't shake the image. After his meeting, which he barely made in time, Malcolm asked his assistant to trace the bus station security cameras. It wasn't something he normally would have done, but this time, it felt necessary. Something about that girl. Something about her act of kindness, it haunted him. He found out her name through the shelter across from the terminal. They remembered her. Said she came by now and then but never stayed the night. Said she didn't like being around too many people. That she never asked for much, just food, sometimes socks or feminine products. She's been on her own for a while, the volunteer said. Smart, respectful. But keeps her guard up. That night, Malcolm sat in his condo overlooking the city, holding that $5 bill. He didn't sleep. He kept wondering, what makes someone who has nothing still choose to give? And what kind of world lets a kid like that slip through the cracks? Meanwhile, Brielle sat behind a laundromat heater, drying her hoodie on a plastic chair. The streets were cold, but she'd grown used to it. She flipped through a tattered notebook filled with song lyrics and poems. Some were angry. Some were dreams. She'd always loved music, but that felt like another lifetime ago. As she stared at a half-written verse, her stomach growled. The muffin was gone. She had no plan for the next day, or the one after. But survival was her rhythm now. And as long as she kept moving, maybe, just maybe, something would change. But change was already on the way. And it all started with $5 and a single act of kindness. The next morning, Brielle made her way toward the East Side Library. It was one of the few warm, quiet places that didn't ask too many questions. She loved it there, especially the back corner by the tall windows where sunlight fell across the carpet like a soft blanket. She'd pretend she was just another student studying between classes, not a homeless girl trying to look invisible. But that day, she wasn't alone. Malcolm stood by the front desk, speaking with the head librarian. He wore a simple navy coat this time, trying not to draw attention, but he still looked like he didn't belong. His eyes scanned the aisles until they landed on the girl in the faded hoodie, curled up in a corner chair with a book she wasn't reading. "Excuse me," he said gently as he approached her. "Brielle?" She looked up, startled. Her whole body tensed as if she might run. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I didn't mean to scare you. I wanted to thank you again. For what you did at the station." She stared at him, confused. "How'd you find me?" "I asked around," he admitted. "I hope that's okay. I haven't stopped thinking about you." That set off alarm bells. She narrowed her eyes. "Why? What do you want?" "Nothing," he said, and he meant it. "Look, I don't expect you to trust me. But I'd really like to buy you lunch. That's it. No strings." She hesitated. Her stomach was empty again. Her head was pounding from too little sleep. And this man looked genuinely kind, even if she didn't understand why he cared. After a long pause, she stood. "One meal," she said. "Then I go." Malcolm smiled. "Deal." They walked to a small diner a few blocks away. Malcolm let her order first. She chose the cheapest meal, grilled cheese and soup, but the way she ate it, savoring each bite, made him wish he'd told her to order 3. They sat in silence for a while until he finally asked, "You been out here long?" Brielle shrugged. "A couple years, on and off." "Any family?" "Not the kind that sticks around." He nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." "It is what it is," she replied, her voice flat. "People come and go. I stopped expecting anything." Malcolm leaned back in his chair. "I used to think that too." She looked at him. "You don't seem like someone who's ever been hungry." "I haven't," he admitted. "But I've been alone. I've lost people. Made mistakes. Spent a lot of time trying to fix them. She studied him carefully. So what are you? A therapist? He smiled. Not quite. I'm in tech. I run a company. That made her pause. Wait, like, a real company? He nodded. Tech. Brielle's eyes widened. She had no idea what to say. Part of her wanted to bolt, this was too strange, too surreal. Why would someone like him be interested in her? I know it sounds crazy, Malcolm said, sensing her panic. But I believe people meet for a reason. You helped me when you didn't have to. That meant something. She pushed her plate away, appetite gone. So what? You want to give me a job or something? Is this your way of saving me? No, he said gently. This isn't about me saving you. But if you want help, real help, I can offer that. She was silent. No one had ever offered her something without demanding something else in return. I can get you into a program, he said. Housing. School. Counseling. Whatever you need. No pressure. But if you're ready, I'll walk with you. Brielle stood, her heart racing. I don't need pity. It's not pity, Malcolm replied. It's a door. You choose whether or not to walk through it. She didn't say another word. She grabbed her backpack and left. Malcolm watched her go, disappointed but understanding. You couldn't rush trust. Especially not for someone who'd had it broken too many times. But 2 days later, she showed up outside his office building, wet, shaking, and exhausted. She hadn't eaten since that meal. The streets had been colder than usual. And for the first time in years, she wanted more than just to survive. She wanted to hope. When she entered the lobby, security moved to stop her, but Malcolm had already left instructions. Let her through, he said as he rushed down the hall. Brielle looked at him with tired eyes. That door's still open. He nodded. Always. And so it began. He got her into a transitional living center with other teens. Clean clothes. Warm meals. Therapy sessions that she at first resisted, then slowly began to attend. He made sure she had access to school resources, tutoring, even music classes after learning about her love for lyrics. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks. Nights she left without notice. Walls she built back up. But Malcolm never gave up. He showed up. Every week. Every call. Every question. Slowly, she began to trust. And slowly, she began to dream again. 6 months passed. Brielle sat cross-legged on the edge of her new twin bed, pen in hand, notebook open across her lap. Her handwriting had gotten cleaner, steadier, like her thoughts were finally forming with purpose. The words on the page weren't angry anymore. They were stories. Songs. Hope. She hadn't seen Malcolm in over 2 weeks. He was traveling for work, but he still checked in with her through the center's counselor, Ms. Linton, who had become like a guidepost in her new life. And today was a big day. Brielle had been invited to perform an original spoken word piece at a local youth event downtown. It was small, maybe 30 people, but for her, it felt like standing in front of the whole world. She hadn't told Malcolm. She wanted to wait. To surprise him, if he ever came back. Meanwhile, Malcolm sat in a boardroom in Chicago, surrounded by men in suits talking about mergers, numbers, and projections. But his mind was somewhere else. He'd read Ms. Linton's message that morning, Brielle was performing tonight. His flight wasn't for another 2 days. But he cancelled it. Just like that. Money came and went. But people like Brielle. You didn't miss those moments. That evening, the community center was buzzing with energy. Teens from different neighborhoods shared their music, poetry, dance. Some shaky, some raw, some polished. All real. When Brielle stepped onto the makeshift stage, the room went quiet. She wore a simple gray dress, clean sneakers, and her hair pulled back in braids. She looked nothing like the girl Malcolm first saw on the bus station bench. She held the mic with steady hands. Her voice was soft at first, then gained strength. I was invisible. Not because I wanted to be, but because the world looks through people like me. I gave away the last $5 I had. Not because I was rich, but because I knew what it felt like to have nothing. I used to dream under neon lights, counting stars between subway fights, praying the concrete didn't swallow my soul. But somebody saw me. And that was enough to start believing that I was still worth saving. I'm not asking for pity. I'm asking to be heard. Because kindness isn't weakness. And broken doesn't mean lost. My name is Brielle. And I'm not invisible anymore. The room erupted into applause. Malcolm stood at the back, unnoticed, heart in his throat. He wasn't a man who cried easily, but in that moment, he wiped away a tear. She had done the work. She had chosen to heal. He'd opened the door, but she had walked through it. Afterward, when she saw him standing by the snack table, she nearly dropped the cup of juice in her hand. You came? She asked, stunned. He smiled. Wouldn't miss it. I didn't think you'd really. Brielle, he interrupted, you're extraordinary. Don't ever doubt that. She laughed, a sound that hadn't come easily in years. You know, she said, that $5. I was gonna use it for dinner. I was starving. Malcolm shook his head in disbelief. You still gave it to me. I thought you needed it more, she shrugged. Turns out, maybe we both did. He chuckled. You ever think about working in tech? She raised an eyebrow. Like, computers. Like creative design. We're starting a youth internship. Paid. Part-time. You'd be perfect. Her eyes widened. Are you serious? Completely. That night, Brielle walked home beneath a sky full of stars, a folder in her hand with internship details and a smile she couldn't hide. She didn't know what her full future looked like. But for the first time, she believed it could be something worth chasing. And Malcolm? He returned to work the next week and couldn't stop sharing her poem. To his staff. To his partners. At conferences. He even printed it and kept it on his desk. All because one cold morning, a girl with nothing gave him everything. A gesture so small, so quiet, it had changed two lives forever.